Hey, what's up, ghouls? It's me, Sabo, and welcome back to another video. My current bullet journal has barely any pages left, so it's time to migrate into another one. I'm very excited because the journal I am migrating into is one I've been sitting on since December last year. I got it on sale and I'm just so happy I'm finally getting to use it. It's a notebook by Notebook Therapy, one of their collaborations with the artist Milkkoyo, and it's the Tsuki Summer edition of their 4-season collection. It's a little smaller than an A5 journal, has 160 GSM ultra thick bright white paper, and the cover is made of padded vegan leather. It's really fucking pretty, the cover is really fucking soft, and it even comes with a small set of character stickers. This is my first time ordering and using a notebook from Notebook Therapy. The ordering process went okay. It did take a month to process and ship my order, and during that time, I didn't get notified or a tracker when it got shipped. I just got an email from my post office telling me I needed to pay import fees for a package, and that was that. Very funny though, I got my tracker like a few weeks ago. Yeah, it must have been a Mercury retrograde. It was very well packaged, there was no damage, and the notebook does really feel like a really well-made notebook, so I'm really happy with that. Getting right into the meat and potatoes, I have gotten into the habit of starting out my bullet journals with a grid spacing guide. I haven't been using them all that much lately because I am so used to the hieroglyphs notebooks that I've been using before, but I thought it was very necessary for this one because I'm now using a whole nother notebook from another brand, and it's also a little smaller than a regular A5 size. So I found that while setting up this bullet journal, I had to toy around a lot with the dimensions of the pages to fit the spreads that I'm so used to using and to have it fit. So having this guide was definitely a lifesaver in this process, and I think it will continue to serve me as I continue to use the notebook throughout this year. I divided up each of the spaces and divided the page up in halves, thirds, fourths, and fifths. These are my most used dimensions, and I gave them all their own colors so that visually I'm able to pick out quickly what I need and what I don't. I'm so glad I got to move into another notebook at this time because a lot has happened in the first half of this year and my current notebook recorded it all. And now we're moving into summer and I feel like there is a shift happening in my life that feels very much like a clean slate. So moving into another journal almost symbolizes a change in a more material, physical way. You get what I mean, right? I just feel as if the summer of 2019 till now was just one big extended year. If you're into astrology, that time period really felt like a Saturn return, even though my actual Saturn return doesn't happen until 2024. But if you're not into astrology, it felt like I was reading a book with no chapters, small margins, and small font. Am I being dramatic? Absolutely. But it was also my experience and thus my truth. Now we're entering summer 2022 and it really feels like a shift is happening that doesn't feel as ominous as the previous ones I've experienced, and I'm actually looking forward to what's to come. Getting to record the next few months in my life in a new notebook is just very exciting for me, and even though I'm very attached to my current journal, I really needed a fresh start. The font that I'm using throughout this whole video I got from Plant-Based Bride. I think it was when she moved into Eevee, where she used this serif font that is messily colored into. I've been obsessed with this font ever since I've seen that video, so I'm happy that I finally got to use it in my own journal. Alright, so the next page I'm setting up is one that goes hand in hand with the grid spacing guide, and it is an overview of my most used spreads. I saw Imprint on Instagram doing an overview of the weekly spreads that she used in May, and I fell in love with the way she did that, so I decided to make one of my own. I have spreads that I come back to time and time again, and because I'm quite forgetful, I always forget the dimension I use, so I always have to go back, measure things up, doing all that work, and I just wanted to make that process a little bit more easier for me. So I drew out my most used spreads on a different piece of paper and cut them out. Then I folded them in half and stuck down one half on the page. On the side that isn't glued down is where I will write down the dimensions of those spreads, so anytime I'm setting up one of them, I can easily flip back to this page to get what I need and make the process a whole lot more smoother and easier for me. I'm really satisfied with how these two pages came out, and I really enjoy the 3D aspect that it gives. And lastly, for the title, I printed out an 8-bit pixel speaking bubble and used a purple marker to add some simple decoration. Onto the future log. This has to be my most used spread ever. I use this to track birthdays because I always forget. I write down future appointments, holidays. I plan out random shit like buy this book in this month. So this spread is always used to its fullest capacity. I didn't feel like writing out each month this time, so I created some stickers on label paper and printed them out. If you think this process isn't just as tedious, you're dead wrong. I was just sitting there typing out all the numbers, checking periodically to see if I wasn't skipping any, and my laptop was getting really slow at that point, so she took some effort. But I like how they turned out, and I tried something new, so I feel like this is a win. I used my purple marker to draw a line at the top of the pages as a header and wrote down future log in my own handwriting and called it a day. It looks very empty right now without any decorations, but I know once it fills up, the decorations would have just gotten in the way, so there's that. Okay, so this spread is definitely one of my favorites ever since I started doing this in my own journals. I got this from Books with Chloe, who tracks her books this way, and I've never looked back. I draw out a bunch of boxes and scribble a black line underneath each of them. Then I print out small covers of the books I read, stick them in a box, and underneath I draw out the star rating that I gave them. It's a very quick overview of the books I read and how much I enjoyed them, and it's incredibly pleasing to look at once it all fills up. My goal this year is to read a total of 50 books. I just felt like 50 was a pretty number. I just finished book number 30, which was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Fucking 5 out of 5 stars. That book was phenomenal. I listened to the audiobook narrated by Lin-Manuel Miranda, and it was everything. I highly, highly recommend that book. But this year, I wanted to focus more on the stories that I'm actually reading rather than the number of books. Being on BookTube or BookTok or Bookstagram often really feels like the more the better. But what I noticed is that at one point I wasn't fully present for the books that I was reading, and that took out a lot of the enjoyment for me. So this year I wanted to focus on what reading is all about, which is the story, and be present and aware of each story I spend time with. And so far I've been having a lot more fun spending time with the books I've read. Whether the book was good or bad, I still find joy in experiencing them both. Except for Burnt Sugar by Abnidoshi, because that book was a train wreck. Moving on to the next two pages. These two pages go hand in hand with the previous one because this is my TBR. This is where I write down all the books that I want to read, ever. I use Storygraph and Goodreads, but I find that having a handwritten list just works better for me. This is also where some sort of theme is starting to take shape. For my previous journal, I went for a Studio Ghibli theme in the beginning, and I wanted to connect the two journals in some way, so I decided to go for a Studio Ghibli theme in this one as well. I also really miss drawing in Hayao Miyazaki's style. There is something so soothing about his art style that I really craved in a way, so it felt really nice to draw some of his iconic characters once again. So for my TBR, I drew out the forest creatures from Princess Mononoke at the bottom of the page. These are so easy to draw, so fun, and they look so incredibly spooky and cute. Then I drew out an internet screen. Don't ask me why, I just really felt like drawing internet screens for the setup. I then colored them with the same purple marker I used before. It's just a really simple setup, and that's what I like about it. Watching this back though, I really want to rewatch Princess Mononoke again. But I have like this romanticized version of the movie in my head, and I feel like when I rewatch it again, it will probably shock the shit out of me with the amount of violence that is actually happening. Still, it's such an incredible movie, and I just really miss it. I really want to rewatch it. movies I want to watch, this spread is the ideal spread to write shit like that down. This is my Sam page. Sam as in series, anime, and movies. It works the same way as my books read spread, but with series, anime, and movies. I've just been watching a lot of different stuff this year and I thought it would be nice to see what I'm actually consuming. I used to only note animes, but I've been watching some series and movies as well, so I figured why not put them all together like this, and so Sam was born. On the next page to Sam, I have a to-be watch list for all the Sams I want to watch in the future. I read more than that I watch Sam, so that's why I put these two spreads together like this. I watch a lot more YouTube than anything else though, so maybe I should make a spread with my most watched YouTube videos of this year. Because I can watch and rewatch the same YouTube videos over and over again because I often have a hard time consuming new content. I think it would be a lot of fun to make a spread of something like that. But the Sam that I have been watching this year have been One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, Attack on Titan, Kimetsu no Yaiba, the My Hero Academia movies, Spy X Family, Legendary, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Which, speaking of Obi-Wan Kenobi, can we talk about that? Can we talk about the little girl who plays Leia? What an amazing, talented little actress. Like, the way she just invoked the spirit of Leia Organa was fucking phenomenal, and because of her, I just want to go on a whole Star Wars rewatching binge. Love to Luke. We love Luke Skywalker in this household, but Leia Organa was the true star of the series. I said what I said. The next spread is new to my collection, and it's a period tracker. I went off of birth control in January this year after being on it for 12 years. I simply just didn't want to be on it anymore, so that's the reasoning behind it. So since I have been on birth control for so long, since I've gotten off of it, I've noticed some irregularities in my cycles this year, and I know this is just my body recalibrating to my natural hormones, but I still wanted to keep track of it so that I can see if there are any patterns that I need to worry about, and also to just get to know my own cycles when they are naturally induced rather than being forced by a pill. There's absolutely nothing wrong with birth control. I think it's amazing that we have birth control and that it exists because so many people who menstruate do rely on it. So I'm not trying to talk shit about it at all. I'm just at a time in my life where I feel like it isn't serving me anymore as it did before. So I'm using this spread to track my cycles and some symptoms for this year. I'm someone who likes to look for patterns in everything, so I think filling this spread out is going to be a lot of fun, and looking back on it will definitely be helpful for me. I drew a little cute Totoro at the bottom of the page because I love its character design. I also love the movie. I don't really have a favorite Studio Ghibli movie, but I feel like My Friendly Neighbor Totoro is definitely one of the first ones that I would recommend to people. I haven't watched a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, to be honest, but the ones I have definitely left a lasting impression on me. I have watched Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, Kiki's Delivery Service, and My Friendly Neighbor Totoro. I do plan on making my way through all of them. There's something just so nostalgic about them, and I think that's really special considering that I didn't grow up with these movies. I'm only watching them now as an adult. So yeah. The next spread is one I copied from my previous bullet journal, or my current bullet journal, and it's my goals for 2022. I wanted to redo this spread because I fucked around with watercolor in my other journal and the pages were just too thin to handle it, so it looked really funny and I didn't really want to look at it that often, so I didn't use it to its fullest potential. And also, my goals have changed a lot during these 6 months, so I wanted to make another one with goals that are more aligned with where I am right now. I loved how I drew Kiki in my previous journal, so I decided to make the same drawing again, but this time with just the line art. I might go in and do that when I practice more with the medium in the future, but for now I just love the page as it is and I'm really happy with the outcome. I'm not showing it in this video, but what I did when filling out this page is that I made space for like 5 goals on the left and 5 goals on the right, and then left enough space in between each of them so that at the end of the year, I can write a little reflection on whether or not I achieved the goal or when I want to note down anything noteworthy. This spread is also new to my collection, and it's my 2022 challenges. And what that basically means is that I'm going to challenge myself the next 6 months to change up my routine and try out different new things. There are so many things that I want to try out, but I just haven't been doing that. And one of my goals for the next half of this year is to broaden my horizons more. Try out those things, focus more on the journey and less on the commitment. I'm allowing myself to try out these things and to put them down whenever I feel like it. The only time I will allow myself to commit is when I feel like I want to do something for an extended time period. And even then, when I feel like it's not sparking joy in me anymore, I'm going to walk away from it and explore other things. I like to explore different things at different times and to do it in a way that I want to do it. That's what makes me excited to live, and so that's what I'm going to do. A part of my depression usually stems from the fact that I commit to things that spark joy in the beginning, but then when it doesn't anymore, I still force myself to stay. And I realize now that is something I can't control. I do have the power to walk away from things that aren't serving me anymore at any time, and I need to make use of that because if not, it's going to add to my depression and downgrade the overall quality of my life. I'm not the type of person to commit to a few things for the rest of my life and be content with that. And there is nothing wrong with it if you are. It is such a valid way of living. It just doesn't work for me, and that's okay. So this spread is where I will write down all the things I want to try out and explore, and then I have a column next to that where I write down in which month I'm going to do that activity, and then when I tried it out, I can check it off in a little column at the end. By doing it this way, I will push myself to plan out these activities and actually do them. And hopefully at the end of this year, I look back and see a bunch of checked off activities, and those that aren't, I can migrate into next year. This is my content planner. I initially thought of doing a Kanban board in my journal, but I decided against it. I tried one in my current journal and in the one before, and I felt like I wasn't using it as often as I thought I would. So for this one, I created those internet screens again, but with multiple tabs. So I have one for the title, one for each of the processes I go through when creating the videos, and a tab to write down the date of when it goes public. It's also a place where I can write down any video ideas as well. This spread will definitely be useful for when I'm working on multiple videos at a time because I can track where I am, what I still need to do, and which one needs to be prioritized based on the deadline of publication I set for it. I'm excited to see how this format is going to work for me for the next 6 months. The beauty about bullet journaling is that if something doesn't work, you can just create another spread, reformat, and try again. But for now, I'm going to try this one out and see how it works for me. I use the right page for TikTok and IG Reels because I've been doing some short form content on those platforms recently, and I basically use the same processes for them as my YouTube videos. And then the left page will be for my actual YouTube videos. Again, I'm using the same purple marker to color in the borders. I really love this color. For some reason, purple has been really doing it for me for the last few weeks. Later on, I will add a small sticker of Howl and Sophie in the down right corner to bring in the Studio Ghibli theme. We're finally onto the last spread for this setup, and it's my wish list. I love making shopping lists of things I want to buy. There's something so fun about window shopping on the internet, and that's why I'm making this spread. It's not necessarily about actually getting to buy all these things. It's more about the fantasy. Sometimes you just need to delude yourself into thinking you're actually going to buy certain stuff. Anyway, I made the same screen again, but divided them in 3 columns, one for the item, the other for the price, and the last one is where I can check off if I actually have gotten around to buy it. At the top, I drew Calcifer because I love him. The true star of Howl's Moving Castle, I said what I said. He's also so easy to draw, and as you may have noticed, the characters that I drew throughout this setup were the ones with the more simpler character designs, with the exception of Kiki. I wanted to make this setup a little more easier for me, and I feel like it's the small characters that we often remember first when we think about these movies. So that's why I opted to draw them instead of the more complex ones. So now we're getting into the flip through. I had a lot of fun creating this setup, and I'm really happy with how it all came out. As you may have noticed, I left one blank page next to the wish list. That's for any one-page collections that I want to add later in the year. But for now, this is my mid-year bullet journal migration setup. I already uploaded my July bullet journal setup, so I will link that in the card above so you can see how the first month looks like in this notebook. Let me know down below if you have migrated into another notebook for the second half of this year and what theme you went for. Also, what notebook are you using? I would love to know. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I thank you for taking the time out of your precious day to spend time with me. Thank you out of the bottom of my little blue heart for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, Ghouls.
I still need to recover from another